All right, so this week we are doing the Year in Tears movie edition. For those of you who don't know, the Year in Tears is the way we kind of break down all the movies taken in that year and split them up into 5 different tiers: the worst, the bad, the middle, the good, and the best. We're obviously not going to take time and break down all 100, but if you want that breakdown of all 100 movies, go to the blog. There's a link in the episode description, as well as the link to the blog in our Instagram, Twitter, but that should serve as a pretty good map as to where we're going, since we kind of bounce all over the place trying to cover 100 movies in less than 100 minutes. So we'll start at the bottom. Number 100 of 100.
Oh wait, what's this category called?
The bottom tier is the big old motherfucking duffel bag of shit. So the number one big old motherfucking duffel bag of shit, Malignant. What did you think of this movie? Was it the worst movie you saw this year?
I would say that this is like one that I would put in the category of like fun bad. Well, okay. Here's the thing. No, actually no, because like
rescinding already.
Because like the first hour of it is like really miserable.
Yeah.
And it throws a lot of pretty weighty topics and just handles them with just no respect or anything. And I get that like that's kind of what James Wan was trying to do with this movie. From what he said in interviews, he was kind of going for like something you find in the back of the movie store in the section that no one looks in, and it looks like it's going to be terrible. And then like, yeah, I mean, if you've watched this movie, you know that the second half of it is insane.
Right.
I don't know if we don't need to spoil it. The second half, I was just having a great time.
Yeah.
You know, once the twist happens, it becomes like a pretty awesome movie. I would have preferred something that had gotten to that part quicker.
I don't know. Maybe it was just I felt betrayed with all these like really weighty concepts he does sprinkle out. It's kind of like he's leading you down the path towards something interesting, and then it just turns into like utter chaos. And you're like, okay, like you didn't need that build up for this final result.
No, yeah. In the first like 3 minutes of the movie, you have domestic abuse and like 5 miscarriages.
Yeah, it's
and
like
stuff.
A miscarriage ghost story.
Yeah, it really, overall it is.
Right.
And stuff that's going to be like upsetting for some people, and it seems like James Wan just did it to be funny, kind of.
Right.
Which is awful. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't get a pass.
So, okay. Did you think Annette was worse than Malignant?
Oh, man. Annette, at first I was like, okay, well, it's like art movie with a hard T,
right?
Basically is what it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't feel like I'm the right person to judge that kind of thing, because I'm just not a high art kind of person. But at a certain point I just decided, fuck that movie, that's not I didn't like the music.
Yeah,
like,
the music was awful.
Yeah.
I'm singing every line of dialogue that lost me. It's like an indie opera.
The music feels like it's trying to bring some aspect to it that just isn't there. It thinks it's like elevating the material in some way that it's not. And I like Adam Driver quite a bit.
Yeah, I liked pretty much all the actors in it. I mean, what's her name? Marion Cotillard, I
think. She's great. Yeah.
I even liked the dude from Big Bang Theory. Like
he was the best.
He's funny in everything besides that show.
He was really good. It's too bad that he wasn't in a better movie. So I didn't get to it, but I want to ask you about the next one on the list. Is Old.
Yeah, 98. Okay. Old.
So what's Shyamalan up to now? Is this his big comeback?
He's like the Ben Affleck. Like he had his comeback and now he needs another one. It's just like a bad Twilight Zone movie. You know the twist is coming. It doesn't add anything to the story. Even the stuff that he's typically good at, like just the way, like he had a really unique way of framing things where he got all those crazy Spielberg comparisons early on in his career. Like this movie just looks like shit. Like it doesn't look good. It's not paced well. All of the characters have this just super choppy dialogue that just doesn't sound like people talking. It just sounds like people moving a story along. It was a bummer. Because I have like some of his comeback stuff. The Visit, and then I didn't think Split was too bad.
Yeah, I liked Split.
Glass was okay, but yeah, this was...
So he's back to square one again, I guess.
It seems like it. He's back to the Happening level of output for me anyways.
That's the worst. That's
that's the worst one he's done.
Lowest point.
This is down there with it. So I see you gave The Last Duel a spin. What'd you think of Ridley Scott's he said, she said medieval rape movie?
Yeah, I usually try to avoid sexual assault type stuff. It just makes me really uncomfortable.
Really? That's odd.
Yeah, like overall, I don't think it's a necessary movie, which is kind of the worst thing you can say about a movie.
Yeah.
I think it could have done more to say something relevant.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, when you're like making a story about that kind of stuff and not saying anything, it ends up being pretty miserable. And it's kind of a Rashomon, meaning like different people giving different perspectives of a story. Yeah. And then this was another 2.5 hour thing, probably. Yeah. And so the whole time you're just waiting to get to the third event, and then you do, and you're like, okay, I still don't feel like I really learned anything from that, and it was hard to watch. And then the movie resolves in a way that I just thought was completely unearned. It's just kind of like, yeah, life sucked for women in medieval times.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, fucking Ridley Scott. Yeah, dude.
I didn't feel like the plot device of just rehashing the story 3 times really even added much perspective. Like you said, it was pretty predictable. There was some ancillary stuff that changed, but I didn't feel like you needed to rehash that order of events 3 times in a row. So what else do we got? That's down here. 94. Pretty low. Oh, so you watched Gunpowder Milkshake?
I did. Yeah. What did you think of this one?
It kind of felt like John Wick meets Ocean's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always kind of surprising to me how flagrant movie studios just glom onto whatever's popular. Like, there's been so many bad John Wick clones. And
remember when the Taken movies were big? Yeah. I feel like it was really obvious.
I feel like that's all Liam Neeson's done for it. He's still like old man with a gun, right?
Yeah.
That's his... Yeah. Bruce Willis is still doing that after Red.
It really caught on for people like Bruce Willis.
Yeah. Eternals is 85.
Not as bad as, like, I mean, people ripped on this movie when it came out.
Yeah.
And I don't think it quite deserves that. Like, oh, it's the most rotten Marvel movie or whatever. It's like, it's definitely not.
You don't think so?
No.
What is?
Both Thor movies that they made before the good one.
I like the first Thor, I think.
I
did when it came out. I haven't watched it in 8 years, but
the first Thor's okay. I had to like write a report on the first Thor, like a group thing for school. So I've seen that movie a lot.
What was the report about?
About like communication skills in Thor. I don't know. I didn't.
Thor's?
I think
all the like fish out of water jokes and how he couldn't communicate.
I think it was more of like we approached it from like a cultural angle.
Oh,
like,
okay.
He's from a different culture. Let's see how he gets along with Americans. But yeah, it was about the Americanization of Thor. At least my section was.
So it was a group project.
Yes.
You guys decided on Thor of all the movies?
Yeah, I think it was something where we had decided that we all liked Marvel and he was our favorite character.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, cool, we're going to do Ragnarok because that's the best Thor movie. And then they were like, Thor 1, baby. At least it wasn't the second one. That one's really bad. Iron Man 2, I think, is a piece of shit.
Thor 2 is probably, I would say, second worst. Eternals is my worst, I think.
Really?
I think so.
What is it that makes it the worst?
I just think for me, it just seems so poorly constructed. They have that whole concept of the unimind in this movie, and I feel like that's what created this movie. It was all these people trying to put their input into this Frankenstein monster of a movie. The whole thing feels like it's just stretched in a ton of different directions, and maybe that's just a product of jumping around the narrative timeline, but yeah, it just felt really disjointed, and probably a way I haven't seen since like Iron Man 2, where it just felt like, oh, but we need to cram Black Widow in there. We need to get this in there. You know, it's clear that there are a lot of different motives in this separate from just telling a good story.
For sure.
83.
There we go.
Did you watch Mortal Kombat?
Yeah. That was like, I mean, I watched that. Feels like so long ago now.
Yeah.
That came out at the beginning of the year, didn't it?
Yeah, I think HBO reported it was the most watched show on HBO Max. What'd you think?
I never played Mortal Kombat growing up other than like when you were just standing somewhere and there was like an arcade machine and you pretended that you were playing it. And I always thought that like what were the Sub-Zero and Scorpion are like the main guys.
Yeah.
I always thought they looked cool. And so that's pretty much all I wanted out of this movie is for them to look cool. And of course they didn't.
You didn't think so?
No. No, I don't know. It's just a weird movie. Like, you think there's going to be this big tournament, and then there's not.
That was the biggest bummer to me. There's no Mortal Kombat in the Mortal Kombat movie. Like, what the fuck? It's a prequel? So did you watch Space Jam when that came out, or did you watch that prepping for this?
Oh, yeah. I watched that for this. I think that was like, at a certain point, I asked my brother if I could borrow his Switch.
Yeah.
Like, I dislike it for the same reasons that I dislike Ready Player One and like the whole concept that those movies are getting into.
Yeah,
I just think
the member berries of rolling out intellectual property highlight reel.
It goes a little beyond that for me with these because they ruin certain things.
Yeah.
Like they take the scary night walkers from Game of Thrones and they put them on the side of a basketball court.
Yeah.
That's the thing that pisses me off. Like this movie is just Warner Brothers advertising that they don't give a shit about like anything that anyone has made.
Anything you've created for us.
It's like a flex. It's just like, we'll do the dumbest shit we can with your intellectual property. Like, we own this stuff. We're just gonna do dumb stuff with it. No, definitely like totally fuck this movie.
What was the worst? Did you see anybody particular that just set you over the edge?
The granny doing the Matrix thing was pretty egregious for me.
Yeah.
Because like on top of it, that reference is so fucking old. Like, in the stuff they have in this movie is so old.
They got Training Day references. Like, what kid is gonna know what's going?
Well, and they threw in like "Play It Again, Sam." Like, that scene is in there.
Yeah.
It's like, who the fuck is this movie for?
The worst for me is the Clockwork Orange guys on the side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gang of rapists watching a kid's basketball.
Right. What was anyone thinking?
I don't know.
Who's going to be the next Space Jammer?
Well, I heard a rumor that they were going to try and do one with The Rock, and it's going to be a wrestling movie.
Yeah, I had heard that back in the day, they were going to do one with Jeff Gordon, and they were going to call it Race Jam.
Race Jam. That title might not work in 2021, especially for a NASCAR movie.
No.
Race Jam. All right, the last duffel bag full of shit, The Tomorrow War. Nearly escaped, but it's still a duffel bag full of shit.
This movie is another fuck you. It's Jeff Bezos just being like, if I rub my money together, I can make a shitty Independence Day or like a reverse Terminator.
I can't believe he punched the alien at the end. That was like the ultimate. Like, okay.
It's just,
there's just no rules at all to this.
No, dude. You see people getting like shredded by these aliens.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Pratt's bullets are stronger somehow. Look at Pratt, you guys, he's doing it.
I feel like it's a rarity to have like a solid creature design in a movie.
Yeah.
These aliens look so cool, and then Chris Pratt just punches him to death at the end. That's it. That's all it took.
And they bleed like their blood looks like poop, which was really awful.
Yeah. Why can't J.K. Simmons be a leading man? Why is he always snarky sidekick? It bums me out to see him in like this, or even Commissioner Gordon. Like, why?
Oh,
why can't he do anything else?
It really bummed me out to see him as Commissioner Gordon. It bums me out when he pops up in a role that small.
All right, so that sums up the duffel bags of shit. Second tier, the bad but not terrible. Guilty pleasure, maybe find some enjoyment in. These are the Limp Bizkits. So are you a big Wes Anderson guy? He's a little polarizing, I think.
Yeah, no, I think this movie, it's like the nail in the coffin of like, I'm not into Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
And I kind of almost like feel bad about it. Like, because
he's so proud. He's so confident in his style. But
well, good for him. That's great. I like that he makes movies that are very stylish and different and very much his style. They just don't work for me like they used to. Bottle Rocket, I think that was his first one. That was great. Rushmore.
I like his first like 4.
Yeah.
Right after Life Aquatic, it felt like he got a little gun shy.
But I think a lot of people like jumped back on, and I really didn't. I kept seeing advertisements for his movies, and it's like, oh, they're getting more square. Like,
yeah,
that's all he's doing now is the square shot.
It's so symmetrical.
Yeah,
and that Moonrise Kingdom was his big comeback, I think.
Yeah.
I like that one. Okay, it wasn't the worst. I would say this is probably my least favorite, The French Dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a cool concept. So doing like a New Yorker style travel journal set to film is kind of cool, but
it is.
I don't know. Something about just the constant droning voiceover and
20 framing devices.
Yeah, it it felt like a chore to get through all of it.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. The story with Jeffrey Wright where he's doing his big thing, that was like exhausting to
Yeah.
me.
I was like, this is still going.
Yeah, I wanted to like it. Like I love
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright.
He got everybody for this one though.
Oh,
Like,
man.
what's her name? Elizabeth Moss was in it. Just like the most minuscule part.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There's so many big names where it didn't feel like you really had a lot of room for most of the characters to develop fully.
No, I agree with that.
Are you big into Ghostbusters at all?
No, I'm not really. No, like
I don't get the appeal. Like, it's so fawned over, and like if I'm gonna watch a Bill Murray movie, there's half a dozen before I get to Ghostbusters.
See, I was anticipating like you being in classic like 80s kid style, like obsessed with this thing.
No.
I really like I never knew until I was older that there's like this massive fandom for it.
Yeah.
And it just does not make sense to me. Some people talk about this the same way they talk about Star Wars and stuff. It's the same thing with like Back to the Future. I've noticed that with 80s kids. It's like Back to the Future and Ghostbusters are like on the level of Star Wars, and that makes no fucking sense to me. Obviously my bias comes through a bit, but like
Top Gun,
there's
I don't get the Top Gun love either.
What is there to dig into? I mean, I know there was like a cartoon and like some additional material, but like what the fuck is there to dig into and like nerd out about?
It's such a cheesy, dated concept. These scientists go around catching ghosts on a TV infomercial. Like, I didn't love the all-female one they did 4 or 5 years ago, but this one is just like so pandering. It just seemed like a really cheap nostalgia play the whole way through.
This was Jason Reitman, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's done a lot of really interesting stuff. His dad directed the original, so I thought if anybody could do like the balance of horror comedy, maybe he can tap into that. But you don't even see a ghost for the first hour of this movie. They're all just hinting around cameos you know are going to happen. And
you would think that with his son directing it, he would be more likely to take it in like a more honest direction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it makes you wonder if Jason Reitman needed some money or something.
Either that or he's really, really trying to like impress his dad. Like, look how much I love your movie, Dad. I'm gonna bring all this stuff back.
I heard there was a new Ghost. Was that cool?
No.
Really?
I didn't think the new Ghost was very cool. And there's one sequence where Paul Rudd is just like running through a Walmart as everything comes to life, and it just feels like a giant Walmart commercial. Like, have you seen those Walmart commercials where like the Dumb and Dumber car pulls up and then the Jurassic Park car, like it felt like that, but it was actually in the movie where like the marshmallows all turn into the Marshmallow Man, and it's very, very pandering.
That sounds bad.
Yeah. But if you like Ghostbusters, you can probably get into it. Like Limp Bizkit, if you're into new metal, you'll forgive it.
There you go.
Ooh, 68, Nobody. This was the other John Wick clone I wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, was this Bob Odenkirk?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he's an action hero.
I heard.
And this movie is actually written by the same writer of John Wick, which makes 100% sense. Because, he's like a retired assassin that has like a suburban family. He gets pulled in to be an assassin one last time, you know. But it's just a really just lame, ultra-violent boomer fantasy where like gets to steal his neighbor's hot rod and just kills everybody because they disrespect his daughter. So.
Oh, do we want to say anything about No Sudden Move?
Oh, sure. What do you think of that one?
It felt like it was going to be cool. It starts off and it's very vague. You don't know what's going on, but you kind of start to like pick up on little things if you pay attention, and that can be kind of fun and rewarding. And then you get to this pretty dope scene, like this hold up scene.
Oh yeah.
In the house early on, and that was where the movie like pretty much peaked for me. I like seeing Don Cheadle, like much prefer seeing him do this than Algae Rhythm from Space Jam.
Forgot he was in that.
I like Don Cheadle a lot. I'd like to see him. I was also kind of let down that he seems like he's moving into the spotlight, and then he like moves back away again, and then it's like, oh shoot, it hasn't been since Hotel Rwanda that I saw him like lead a movie. But I saw that whenever that movie came out ages ago, and thought he was incredible. More Don Cheadle would be cool.
I was kind of drawn in like you for this one, where I like the ambiguous nature and how it didn't draw any straight lines for you to follow where the story was going. Then I feel like it all just gets upended when Matt Damon just like, here's what the movie is.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because I forgot. Yeah, it really does just kind of lay the whole thing out for you at some point. And I didn't like Matt Damon in that role.
No.
I felt like
It felt like a cutesy like cameo.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's Matt Damon.
Yeah.
He didn't blend into the role for me.
No. It was kind of like, you think you've seen all the famous people we have in this movie. Well, guess what? We Trojan horse
saved the
Matt
biggest
Damon.
for last.
It was kind of like Matt Damon in Interstellar. Like, yeah, you think this is a McConaughey vehicle. Wait till we show you the abandoned spaceman's Matt fucking Damon. So have you been following the Godzilla Kong timeline?
Hell yeah, dude. I was for a while. I'm not anymore. What about you?
I remember, like, you know when an actor has just, like, a ton of buzz coming off a project and then their next thing just kind of carries that with it?
Mm-hmm.
That was what the Godzilla remake was for me with Bryan Cranston. Like, me and Ben went and saw it. Like, oh, shit. Fucking Walter White's in Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then... Wait, he died halfway through the movie?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even get killed by Godzilla, did he? He got killed by, like, the moth thing.
Yeah, it wasn't Godzilla. I remember that. I think a lot of people, that movie was trying to bring you in with Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
I mean, he was all over the trailer.
And then you get stuck with
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Quicksilver, the bad version.
I actually totally get the complaints about that movie. I liked that one a lot.
Yeah?
Just the directing and the stuff. I don't think anyone handles scale like Gareth Edwards.
Yeah, I did love the perspective of kind of like parachuting into that city at the end. That was done really, really well.
That's a scene that I like come back to because it's done so well. And there are a few times where you see Godzilla positioned in this way where you really get a sense of how enormous he is and how frightening that would be.
Right.
And Gareth Edwards did the same thing with Rogue One with like the Death Star and stuff. He just used it, and like AT-ATs and shit. He just uses stuff in like a very unique way that I haven't seen a lot of other directors do. None that come to mind, honestly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I would love to see him do more Godzilla, or the guy that did Kong Skull Island on the other end of the spectrum. Because that movie's like goofy.
Yeah.
But that also worked for me because that movie was just like, we're doing a B movie with money.
Yeah.
But then, anyways, then we had King of the Monsters. That was a shit show.
Really? I like that better than the first one.
Oh, wow. That one to me was like nonstop fights.
Yeah.
And I get it. But if you don't have the money to do those not in the rain at night every time, then fuck off.
I did see that complaint quite a bit.
Dude. No, like I will take 2 good fights that are not obscured by like all this shit on the screen. And then I felt like this newest one, Godzilla versus King Kong or whatever it's called, there is some good stuff in it. They gotta stop doing this conspiracy theory advocation in the movie. I don't think they're trying to do that, but that's what it ends up being, and it's stupid and bad, and there isn't an Earth in the middle of the Earth. I feel like we need to say that just because it's really 2022. Bad. Yeah, there's just laughably stupid shit. But then you have cool stuff like Godzilla trying to like breathe a hole through the whole planet. Like that was cool. Just do more stuff like that because that's insane.
I got a grievance I need to save for next year. People doing podcasts to drive the narrative of a story. I noticed that quite a bit. There's a kid in Ghostbusters named Podcast. Like, that's just his name.
What?
But yeah, Brian Tyree Henry here with his Godzilla Truther podcast.
Yeah.
I really like him. I feel like he's gotten so many shit roles. Like, I want him to do something good, not play the cop in the Child's Play remake or this podcasting guy in Godzilla. Like, he needs a good role.
I'm glad you reminded me he's in this. Like, he's fun to watch in it. It's weird that they have him and the kid from
what
was that?
Hunt for the Wilder people. And he's basically like, I feel like people are just outsourcing him for like comedic relief. Just play the same guy because he was in Deadpool 2 doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. But he didn't really even get to do much in this movie. He's like totally wasted.
Do you think this sticks to Millie Bobby Brown being able to headline a movie since these 2 Godzilla movies haven't really done well?
I don't know. I think obviously people were very enamored with her at first. I think rightfully so.
Yeah.
I think it was really impressive to see a child be able to do what she was doing on Stranger Things. It'll be interesting to see when she gets past the period of getting cast because they just want her face on the poster or whatever. I'm not saying that's what this was, but it might have been.
All right, so that does it with the bottom 2 tiers. Smack dab in the middle. These are the inoffensive, middle of the road, pretty good, average. These are the Hershey bars. There have been plenty of developments in candy bars. You're going to go through your, trick-or-treat bag and eat everything before you get to the Hershey's. You'll still eat it because it's chocolate, but, it's just chocolate. So I kind of love that Netflix is becoming like the safe haven for dejected directors who get like chewed up and spit out of the traditional studio system.
Like who?
Like Zack Snyder, who made Army of the Dead here. But I also feel like more often than not, when they do something with Netflix, you end up with like The Irishman, which is like 30 minutes too long. And you kind of like, okay, maybe these guys do need reeled in a little bit. Not enough to bring in Joss Whedon to reshoot your whole movie, but a little.
Gosh, dude, this is another one. Like, I don't even think I finished this movie.
It's long.
I watched most of it, but did not feel compelled to finish it. I really didn't care about like Dave Bautista and his daughter in this movie.
And I like Dave Bautista. I think he's been really good and stuff. But yeah, I really wanted to like it. I'm a big zombie fan, but it's very bare bones to be something that they're already planning spin-off prequels and anime series around.
They already made another one, right?
Yeah,
Don't we have
there's another one in the list.
Prequel to this on our list?
Yep.
Gosh.
The whole thing just kind of reminded me of like the bad Call of Duty zombie add-ons. Like,
yeah.
That's all there is. It's just zombies in Vegas.
It felt very video gamey, not in a good way.
No. He's great at opening credits, though. I don't know if anybody does opening credits better than Zack Snyder.
This movie definitely made me kind of realize how corny he is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've only seen his DC stuff. I'm not going to watch Sucker Punch or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I've never seen that. But I think the
that.
general consensus is he's only good when he is adapting something, which this is an original concept. And I think a lot of people paralleled this to Sucker Punch, where it's just an excuse to make slow motion action sequences.
Yeah, he's very good visually.
Yeah, I think that's something that I'm seeing more and more. It feels like everybody has their own outlet, whereas in the 80s or 90s, there were 50 big studio projects and you had the best people all working on the same stuff.
Right.
Now everybody gets to go do their own project, whereas, you know, if James Wan or Zack Snyder was working with a really good writer, their movies would probably be better.
Definitely. Or did you want to say anything about Cruella?
Cruella? I mean, I think it's probably the least worst of the Disney live action movies so far.
But that's not really saying much.
No, it's a very low bar.
Yeah.
And just having an origin story where Cruella's mom gets murdered by Dalmatians is just enough to make you turn it off right there. But
oof.
The director's really good. I thought he made it watchable. Emma Stone made it better than it should have been. But I did force myself to watch West Side Story. And I didn't know it was a Romeo and Juliet modernization. So
that's right. You texted me that.
I'm watching it like, this seems familiar. Wait a second. It was really well made. It's obviously a Steven Spielberg movie. It's going to look incredible. I thought all the really like young talent was really good. The two actresses in it, they were both really, really good. I just feel like the source material didn't do much for me. I just don't feel like the songs added anything. Like I didn't come away thinking like that was a great song, you know? I can listen to soundtracks for other stuff like Les Mis or Grease and stuff like that, listen to the songs on their own, and they work fine. But I feel like the only way you can really appreciate these songs is in the context of the story.
Gotcha.
Another dumb, fun comedy. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
Yeah.
Did you get a kick out of that, or was that a little too dumb for you?
I wanted to like it. I don't know why I don't. I think I was like thrown off because the characters are so distinct.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking that it's some SNL bit that I don't know.
Right.
I don't know any of that stuff. And I don't know if that was like the whole thing that threw me off, because like I was still thinking 45 minutes into the movie, like, why are they like this? You know?
Is this some bit that I'm missing out on?
It's like if you had Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly acting as weird as they do in Step Brothers without the context.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. And I didn't get it. And then there was this weird like Austin Powers thing going on.
There was,
which was kind of funny. Like I kind of liked that because I don't know. I kind of miss some of that like really just stupid humor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to like rewatch this and hopefully like it more, because I like the actors and everything, and I like just stupid stuff. I don't need a reason for it to be funny. I really liked their like friendship too.
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying, where it felt like it was just doing the whole Saturday Night Live thing of you're laughing because it's a comedy. It didn't really explain the jokes. It's just, I'm doing goofy voices. I'm doing silly things.
Look at this character. Yeah. Who are these crazy people?
But I don't know. I kind of just, I found myself admiring at just how like fearlessly stupid it was and just not afraid to take these massive swings, whether they worked or not. But yeah, it definitely reminded me of like something like Molly Shannon would have done after she left Saturday Night Live in the 90s. So did you like Shang-Chi better than the Eternals, or where does that fall into your Marvel pantheon?
I liked Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
It's I think maybe like a little more forgettable than the Eternals for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's like really dealing with that many like big ideas that we haven't dealt with before in Marvel. Right. Maybe the best thing I can say about this movie is like I forgot at a certain point that it was Marvel.
Yeah.
And it was doing a good job of just being like a cool like kung fu movie.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought it was okay.
Dead center of the list.
It is, yeah. 51. My biggest takeaway from this and the Eternals is why is Disney skimping on their CGI budget so much? Like they both had really distractingly bad CGI scenes.
I agree with that.
Like even this, like you have the big dramatic father-son confrontation, and then there's these weird flesh-colored squid bats that come out of nowhere.
Yeah, those did not look great.
I think I found myself wanting a little more in the action department. It felt more in line to me anyways with like a typical origin story as opposed to like a standalone action movie.
Yeah. No, it definitely at a certain point kind of like forgets about kung fu and becomes much more of a Marvel movie in the third act.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me long for the days of like Jackie Chan just fighting for 20 minutes and then doing something else for like not even 5 minutes before getting in another fight.
All right, so this was, I think, one of your most anticipated for the year. What did you think of The Matrix Resurrections?
Oh, shit. Wait, where is that? Number 44?
48. I dropped it a little.
Oh, shit. Okay. I usually don't let myself get, like, excited about movies for this reason.
You don't want to get your hopes up.
Yeah, but I think by the time, like, I was watching it, I'd kind of, like, tempered my expectations.
Yeah.
And I also watched it with my family, and I could tell that, like, my dad in particular, for some reason, was having a great time with it. Like, we went back and watched the original the next night because he had so much fun.
Nice.
And so that was kind of cool. I wouldn't shame anyone for liking this movie or thinking it's actually, like, pretty great.
Yeah.
Because I can see it working for people. I think there are some great ideas in it. For me, it just didn't really follow through on any of those.
Yeah.
And just kind of, like, shuffled around and then ended up with this very middling ending that didn't say a lot to me.
Yeah.
I think if you like really read into it, you could find more, but I'm not willing to do that because it is not interesting enough to watch many more times. Like the action is not great. You get callbacks to like some of the worst stuff of like the old Matrix, like the Merovingian shows up.
Yeah,
and starts like
I did not want him there.
Saying stuff about like Mark Zuckerberg. And at that point, I was cringing. What did you think?
I felt like it did a good job of trying to replicate the mindfuck element of the original.
Yeah.
Where it felt kind of like this big emotional awakening for Keanu Reeves. It tackled that element more than the other sequels did, whereas the other ones were kind of just big action spectacles.
Yeah.
So this felt like it had a little more in common with the original, like spiritually, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
But I also find myself a little conflicted because there's not really much to Neo and Trinity's relationship to lynch this whole...
It's all built around that.
Yeah. I mean... She's kind of just like the pixie dream girl that finds herself at the center of most of these stories. Mm-hmm. She just does karate and rides a motorcycle. I don't know. I thought it was ambitious. It was kind of cool. After a little bit, like the opening just felt kind of like a little bit of an exaggerated wink at the audience. Like, we know we don't really want to make this either, but if we're gonna, this is how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, that there's like some very meta language in the movie calling out Warner Bros. About this movie getting made. And there were people thinking before the movie that it was going to dig into that a lot more.
It felt a little tacked on to me, really. Mm-hmm. Just the way the two didn't really connect. Like, as soon as Will Smith's wife shows up with all the bad makeup on,
oh my God,
it feels just like a bad sequel again. After, like, you build up all this credibility of self-awareness, it's like, nope, we're still going to do all the cringy shit that you would expect from a bad sequel 10 years too late.
And I was still, at that point, kind of, like, waiting for the other shoe to drop, like, again. Like, okay, but they're not really doing this, right? It's going to, like, mess with my head again, but it really doesn't.
So you're not a big horror guy. What did you think of Candyman?
Was let down by this movie overall.
Yeah.
I thought the music was cool, the vibe of it is cool, like Chicago looks awesome. Like got some nice like misty shots in there, just like
Yeah.
really eerie. And I think the idea of the movie is interesting. I don't think it needs to like remind you of what it is quite so often.
Yeah.
I mean, just
very heavy-handed.
the word gentrification is used so many times in this movie.
Right.
But it's, yeah, I think that's an interesting concept to explore. I've never seen the original Candyman.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a disconnect there. There is some connective tissue in this.
Yeah.
That might have been more rewarding, but
no, this one kind of retcons like the origin of Candyman a little bit to fit the whole social justice narrative.
Right.
Which again, it felt pretty heavy-handed, and then like the final 20 minutes I was just like, I'm done. I'm out.
There's supposedly, you know, I guess you could call that a twist, where this guy that's been in the movie kind of slides into a more villainous role.
Yeah.
And it just does not work at all. There's like no gravity to it.
I enjoyed probably like 80% of it, but yeah, the ending really soured me on it overall. So this one, The Green Knight, I liked a lot about it, but it just moves so slow.
Yeah, I've heard other people say that too. I think this is my favorite movie of the year.
Dang.
Yeah, like,
and I got it 43.
Yeah, no, and like I think that's cool. Like I think lists have been wild this year.
Right.
Like, I mean, you've got stuff in the bottom that people have in their top 10.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking The Green Knight is slow, because it totally is.
It's shot so well though. It really has that mystical feel to it.
It feels like a student film in like the best kind of way, I think, where it just feels like someone stewed over every shot and like really thought about what they were doing and used whatever tools they had at their disposal to try to make something interesting and something that looked cool visually. And again, this has an interesting score. I feel like they use music at times where you typically wouldn't hear music in a movie, which is something I'm always interested in. Dev Patel just is looking so sexy in this movie. I don't know why he's not doing more leading man stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he should be in a Marvel movie by now.
They were all really good. Joel Egerton, he's always really good. He was great in this.
Alicia Vikander.
Yeah.
I always like her, but not since Ex Machina have I been like, hell yes, Alicia Vikander. She's so good.
Yeah.
No, I can totally understand this not working. It's one of those where, like, I heard a description of it and I knew I was going to love it, and then I actually did, which is kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think uniquely positioned to love this movie. So
no, I've heard a lot of people really like it.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, especially given your taste and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're not like huge on fantasy in the first place, right?
I'm not.
Okay.
But I can appreciate the technical aspect to a lot of it, but yeah. So Green Knight's 43 or number 1, depending. We'll have to be more collaborative on this going forward.
No, dude, it's your list. I mean, I'm just here to talk about it with.
So Free Guy. Is 42 fitting for Free Guy? You probably didn't like it better than The Green Knight, obviously.
Free Guy. More like Free My Eyes from this movie.
You hated it. Okay.
No, I didn't hate it, but like, it just feels very like bland to me. I feel like it's a concept where you could do a lot more. Pretty good use of Ryan Reynolds, I think. Like, it's like Deadpool light, kind of, or like kid-friendly Deadpool.
Right.
What
it's
he's doing.
Deadpool in the Truman Show.
Yes, there you go, dude. What did you think of seeing like the moment where it is made known that this is a Disney movie?
See, I thought that was kind of weak, especially because the movie kind of rings out as many cheap jokes as they can, as like, nothing's original anymore, blah blah blah, let's make sequels. And then they kind of outsource a lot of their big moments to existing properties.
Sure.
Like, it seemed very hypocritical, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wasn't a fan of that, but I don't know. As far as like just a easygoing action comedy, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
It was decent.
It's fine.
You know. So this is probably way low for almost anybody. But I got Spider-Man No Way Home at 36. It just felt very, again, kind of easy fan service. It was okay. It was probably the best Tom Holland Spider-Man so far.
Oh, you think so?
I would say so, but I didn't think much of Homecoming or.
So yeah, you haven't really been a fan of.
No, I think he's good as the character. I just feel like these have been very diluted movies where not much happens. Like it just feels like it's just constantly building to the next thing. I think I said that in the last podcast we talked a little bit about. It feels like the Harry Potter movies where it's all just building towards the Voldemort showdown. So we know there's 6 more books. Nothing else is going to happen till then.
Yeah, and they don't have to do that with this.
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess they're probably afraid of, they want the character to have legs and they want Tom Holland to play the character for as long as he's willing to, which seems like a contentious thing already. So like, yeah, maybe they should have just come out with the best movies they could instead of being like, all right, let's pump the brakes because we had him do something in the last movie and now we need to undo that. All right, so the next tier, the runner-ups, the good not great, it's Kelly Rowland's. It's hard to compete with Beyonce. You're always going to be second fiddle. She's a great singer. She's a very talented young lady, but can you name a Kelly Rowland song? I mean, I couldn't have even named Kelly Rowland.
Exactly. So 3 movies that occupy this whole space. I guess we can get right out of the way here. The Fear Street trilogy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I was really surprised, not only that Netflix just went into a whole trilogy of these movies sight unseen, but like how much depth they had to them. I was a big Goosebumps fan growing up, but like those stories don't have a whole lot of depth. They're pretty much just horror movies diluted down for kids.
Just fun kid stuff.
Yeah, so a Fear Street series, I wasn't expecting too much, but these were actually really good, and I thought they did a really good job of distinguishing each one as kind of a standalone movie that still interconnected the whole trilogy.
Yeah, for sure. They all have a distinct vibe to them, for sure.
I think the second one probably leans a little bit too much like on the cliches of the whole slasher thing.
Second one was my least favorite. It just felt like chaos at a camp.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I thought they were all really good. I think we agreed 1666 was the best of the 3.
It's great. Yeah. It really, I think, retroactively makes the series better. Yeah, the third one becomes this kind of explanation for the whole thing and kind of a examination of like the witch trials, you know, trying to provide an explanation for how some of that stuff could have gone down. And I think I actually did it in like a good, like tasteful way. But yeah, definitely like surprisingly cool little horror series.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I didn't really have high expectations, but yeah, I felt like this kind of improved upon the whole Stranger Things formula. So we talked a little bit about Suicide Squad. We got that at 29. What were your thoughts on that?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. Yeah. What about you?
I thought it leaned a little too heavily on the James Gunn formula of like misfit anti-heroes. Yeah. But I mean, as a whole, I think distanced from the Guardians of the Galaxy, I think this will probably stand out as one of the better DC movies of this era.
Yeah.
But again, that's not an incredibly high bar to hurdle.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. Some of his trademarks are just kind of becoming a little obvious. The needle drop, soundtrack, action sequences, and the shark guy just kind of reminds you of like a meshing of Groot and Drax. It hits a lot of the same notes.
It's funny, we talked about Idris Elba recently as like a leading man.
Yeah.
And he has a very muted performance in this movie. It felt intentional to me, and I kind of liked it in a way. I thought what he was doing fit that.
Yeah.
As opposed to like sometimes it just feels like he's not bringing enough to the table.
Yeah.
I know that you feel that way about him sometimes. So yeah, did it work for you in this or?
No, I found myself weirdly wishing Will Smith was here.
Oh.
Like I feel like even in like his understated stuff, I feel like Will Smith could have done like the annoyed, begrudging group leader stuff, eye rolling at Peacemaker and all those guys a little more convincingly. Like, I don't know what it is. I just thought, I feel like I'm still waiting. I want to see him get the role, and I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you big Eric Andre fan?
I liked his show, yeah. When that came on the air, I was like blindsided by it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it'd been a little bit since Tim and Eric and stuff like that, and it felt like kind of a nice continuation of that humor combined with Jackass sensibilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Which maybe I like because of the middle schooler in me or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, Bad Trip was pretty great. I definitely laughed harder at this than any other movie this year. I don't know if that's like quite fair just because like it's so different from everything else, and you know it's using like real life footage. It's almost like a hybrid kind of thing, like Borat, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty ingenious the way they did kind of whole satire on rom-coms by acting out like all the plot points in real life settings.
It was cool. Yeah.
It was, yeah, I think it's probably my favorite like straight up comedy from the year.
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny. I did feel like Lil Rel was kind of out of his element at times where like I feel like Hannibal Buress must have been busy or something because he would have been perfect there. But
I liked Lil Rel. It did feel like it was noticeable how few of like the really strange bits he was willing to be in.
I was surprised by how many Tiffany Haddish just dove right into it, man. She
was
was great.
Oh my gosh, MVP for sure. I always like her, but yeah, she was so good in this.
You expect her to kind of be like too Hollywood for this at this point in her career, but yeah, she dives in head first, man.
Yeah, but I thought it had a lot of charm to it in a lot of ways. It's almost like a reverse Borat in like the sense that that movie is often revealing how shitty people are.
Yeah.
And this seemed like it was revealing some good nature in people at times where people are like legitimately trying to help out Eric Andre and Lil Rel while they're being assholes. Not all the time. There are definitely some sketchy people that are hilarious, but I found it like surprisingly heartwarming from that stuff.
Yeah, there were quite a few people who were like genuinely concerned.
Good people, just trying to help.
Gets me excited for Jackass 4 coming up. I think Eric Andre's got a bit part in it. So
good. That's perfect. Yeah.
So we made fun of how desperate people are for original ideas. Zola was a really good movie, even though it was based off a Twitter thread.
Yeah.
Like did you know anything about the Twitter thread going into it?
Not beforehand, no.
I didn't either.
And I wouldn't have really known. Like, I think a lot of people talk about this movie like, oh, it's an interesting experiment. Yeah. I think that's true, but it comes off as like a pretty solid script for the most part. I mean, maybe an indie script with like an unconventional ending.
Yeah.
But no, this is one of my favorites of the year. It was super fun. I mean, not always fun. There are like some kind of gross stuff in it.
Yeah.
It basically is like a examination of how sex trafficking happens in the US, which is an important topic. So for that alone, I thought it was kind of interesting to check out. But no, I think it handled that stuff really well. And then also the main character I found really compelling, which maybe is a bit of a problem because the real life Zola is an EP on the film.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. But the lead actors in this movie are awesome.
Yeah. Is that Rayleigh Keough? She was hilarious.
The
girl that's getting pimped out.
Okay, yeah. She was
hilarious.
Cute. I've been saying that so much since the movie. And then we've got Cousin Greg Nicholas Braun, playing the perfect role for him, honestly. Like, better than Cousin Greg even. I just think he fits this character so well.
Is he gonna be Cousin Greg forever? I feel like he's gonna be this like puny, whiny dude forever.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name. Is he gonna be McLovin, just doing the same role?
I hope not. Because he feels like he could probably do more than that.
Yeah.
And I thought this had some nice nuanced difference from, like, it didn't read as him playing Cousin Greg again, but I could see, like, he probably got cast because of that character.
Yeah, the Golden Globes happened the other day, and they weren't televised and nobody went.
Right.
But Power of the Dog won Best Picture.
That's awesome.
We got it at 17. You said you liked this one quite a bit.
I love this one. This is probably the first one I'm going to go back and rewatch from this year.
I'd never seen any of this director's work before, but she did a really good job. It was another one kind of like when we talked about Harder They Fall, where it has this whole different take on Western, where it's not typically what you see from the genre, but it still very much fits. So what did you like about this one so much?
I like what you're saying about it. I feel like we've seen these updates this year to like these traditional like Western stories and other types of stories that have these like, or like revenge stories that have these like staples of machismo and stuff like that. And this definitely is a deconstruction of that kind of thing. I was just ready for this movie. Like, all I'd heard is that Benedict Cumberbatch plays a very sadistic character.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of ready to sit with something that I felt like was going to be kind of slower paced and just Benedict Cumberbatch being insufferable. And man, it's cruel. Like, it's horrific at times. Kirsten Dunst, like, really sells a lot of that and has to, like, to really make this movie work. There is a little bit in the middle where, like, she has this very sudden and turn towards alcoholism.
Yeah.
And that was like the one thing where it felt a little rushed there. Maybe it'll make a bit more sense looking back on it. I think there are a lot of things about this movie that'll be more interesting a second time around.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know if you picked up on what was going on, but I did not completely for a while. Yeah.
It took me a minute, but the one thing that just took me out of this whole experience where I really, really enjoyed everything going on, but spoiler alert, the glamorized, unintentionally hilarious love scene with Bronco Henry's cum rag is just too much.
Really?
It took me out of it. I just started laughing.
Oh, that's too bad. I was really mesmerized by those scenes. Like, I thought he, and I get what you're saying. Like,
I know. I'm probably just being immature about it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah. Maybe that's why I loved Green Knight so much too. But the way that Benedict played those scenes is really interesting to me, and like the film technique combined with like the music is also like kind of hypnotic in those sequences.
Yeah.
And that worked for me, but I could see it not working. I thought it was a cool movie. It's definitely something that is going to look different to me a second time around because I didn't really totally understand, and I think it'll be this way for a lot of people. Like, I didn't totally understand what was going on until the last shot of the movie.
Yeah. So, the top tier, the best of the best, the Dan Flashes. These are the industry gold medalists. Easily over $1,000 worth because of how complex their tapestry of filmmaking artistry has been woven. So, of course, we start with a sequel to the third remake of a 40-year-old horror movie, Halloween Kills. You tried diving in to like figure out the mythology or the timeline of Halloween, and you're just like, this is too much, right?
Yeah.
It's too many timelines.
Yeah, I thought there were probably like 4 of those movies. No. Turns out there's like 8.
No, this is 12, I think. Yeah, we're on to 12.
It's one of those series where they've stopped like renaming them and they've gone back to naming them what the originals were.
Yeah, which makes it even more confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I probably have this higher than it deserves to be just because I really like the series, and
that's okay, yeah.
The first entry in the series where it feels like it actually extends the true spirit of the original film as opposed to just having a guy in a mask kill a bunch of people again. So I really enjoyed that about it. John Carpenter is awesome. This is probably my favorite score he's done in quite a while. So it was really cool to see him dive back into this, which kind of built his career.
So what is the essential aspect of this movie that harkens back to the original?
I guess the thing that sets it apart for me is that all of these movies are built around like a boogeyman type figure, whether it's like Jason or Michael or Freddy Krueger, whatever. But this movie more delves into like the trauma and the effects of what like a mass murder like this can cause, and the ripples out through like a community. And I just felt like that aspect of it was really interesting and a lot more complex than just having a dude that never dies kill a bunch of people every Halloween. Did you get around to checking out Riders of Justice?
I did. And I'm so glad I did. This movie was awesome.
I thought you would like that one. I was kind of picking up on that, what you were saying about traditional revenge stories, whereas this is kind of subversion of all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like an examination of like what we've thought of as like masculinity.
Yeah.
And just saying like, oh, maybe this is a really bad idea.
Right. No, and it was really surprising, whereas like you hear somebody describe a movie like that, you think you're going to get this really soft-spoken, emotional, therapeutic experience.
Yeah.
But I mean, it starts off just like a Taken movie. Like he's going to go get revenge for his family and all this. But yeah, it leads you on a really unexpected path. It's
funny that you bring up therapy because it definitely like it advocates for therapy in a lot of ways. Some of the characters that are included in this, you just typically wouldn't see in... Well, yeah, I mean, because it's not like... I was going to say you typically wouldn't see him in a revenge flick, but like it's not a revenge flick. It's really like by the end, divorced from that.
Yeah.
It's about grieving, basically, and doing that the right way as opposed to, like, hurting people and being violent. So.
Right. Just castigating blame to make yourself feel better, basically.
Yeah. Overall, like, the humor was fun. Like, there are some good action sequences. It kind of gets to, like, have its cake and eat it, too, which is why my one kind of issue with it is, like, it appears to be ending a certain way.
Yeah.
And then there's a final scene that drastically changes, like, I think if they had excluded that last scene, it would be a much better movie. That's just a small thing. It's a good movie. I always like Mads Mikkelsen too.
Yeah, he's one of those dudes that picks really interesting projects where it's like you don't see him do a lot, but when you see him attached to something, it kind of automatically sparks my interest.
Right.
Number 7, we got Harder They Fall, which we already kind of talked about.
We did. It's a great movie.
Very good. Number 6, I got Spencer, the Princess Diana movie.
Yeah.
I think Kristen Stewart, probably the best performance of the year. It's got another Johnny Greenwood score also, the guy who did the music for Power of the Dog.
Which was really good, yeah. From what I've heard, this almost leans into horror territory.
Yeah, it's really building upon like the tension and pressure that she was probably going under through all this stuff. And the soundtrack really amplifies that. It sounds like almost like a Godspeed You Black Emperor album. Like just a lot of really ambient noise stuff that kind of builds the tension. I'm not a huge Radiohead fan, but yeah, Johnny Greenwood's stuff is really, really good.
Same, yeah.
And yeah, Power of the Dog definitely had hints of like his work on There Will Be Blood, but kind of a different flavor.
So you said you thought this was best performance of the year?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm surprised that I don't think Kristen Stewart got nominated for anything. I don't know. The politics of that stuff is always so stupid. Like a lot of the time with a name like Kristen Stewart, she's pretty recognizable as herself, but here like she really kind of disappears into the character. It's really, really well done. Number 3 was Licorice Pizza. Paul Thomas Anderson's probably like one of my favorite directors.
Yeah.
This was fun. Felt like a callback to his earlier work, being set in the 70s in California. But definitely worth checking out. Number 2, one of the most polarizing movies of the year. Don't Look Up. It seems like everybody either like loves or hates this movie. What camp do you fall in?
I think I'm in I don't hate it. Okay. But like for certain people it's a comedy, and for certain people I just don't think it is. What I want to say is that it should have been funnier, but I feel like the movie is gonna like turn on again and yell at me for saying that because it feels like it's yelling at you.
Yeah.
At least for me, it felt like it was yelling at me, and maybe it's because I already have so much concern about climate change and the stuff that this movie is talking about that it just was like really uncomfortable to just like confront that for an hour straight with very little levity, because like to me there was basically one joke in this movie, this like recurring thing that Jennifer Lawrence does that was funny. And I could see where there were things that other people would call jokes, like the stuff that Jonah Hill is doing.
Yeah.
But it's so close to reality for me that it's not fun at all. I can understand why people think it's like this very prescient thing, and it is in some ways, because this was like kind of before like COVID had really hit, and it's like you could even just look at this as an allegory for COVID and it totally works.
Yeah.
And there was stuff I liked about it. I thought that Leonardo DiCaprio's character had like an interesting arc.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of slides into being a shithead.
Right.
I liked that. And once that stuff was going on, I was having a bit more fun with it. Once Timothée Chalamet showed up, I was having a lot of fun because I liked the character he was playing. And like he and Jennifer Lawrence do a great job with each other. And like I think the ending is cool. I think the ending is good, and the ultimate message is good. It was a little painful for me getting there. This worked for you though?
I liked it. I didn't feel like I was being preached to as much as McKay's other movies, Vice and The Big Shore, where it feels like those two movies felt very condescending to me, where it's like, I'm going to tell you why this is all fucked up and let me sit down and mansplain it to you.
Yeah.
Whereas this to me just felt like he wasn't yelling at anyone, it was just a primal scream of helplessness. Like, look at the institutional failure that can't even get us to save ourselves from our own apocalypse. Almost just more of a collective message about our inability to come together and solve a crisis, whether it be climate change or COVID or anything. It almost felt like a Saturday Night Live version of like Dr. Strangelove, this big black comedy of political failures.
See, I think that if it had been more like, it didn't read as satirical enough for me to view it in the Doctor Strangelove way.
Yeah, it wasn't outright as funny.
Yeah, if it had been a bit more heightened, not a bad movie, just maybe I'm just not the right person for it because of my anxiety.
I feel like a lot of people, it definitely didn't gel with this. They either felt preached to, or that it wasn't funny enough. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's a really difficult tone to hit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and it's tough too because the movie tries to kind of like make points about why are you distracted by singers like Ariana Grande, but then
Yeah.
it like has her in the movie.
Well, they even have Chris Evans at that one point telling him, "Yeah, we made this giant blockbuster. It cost $300 million." It's like, how much did this thing fucking cost Netflix to make with all the people in it?
Yeah. That joke really stuck out as like, did they mean to do that?
Right.
Do they know what they're doing? I didn't think Jonah Hill's character was fun.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, this is just a real person. Like,
was that it? Was it too real?
Maybe that's what it was for me. Yeah, a lot of it felt like, just really just too close to home for me. Yeah.
Well, I even heard McKay said he had to rewrite some of it because of things that had happened during COVID that
There you go. Yeah.
were kind of
happened.
paralleled in the movie.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to number 1, The Humans. Did you see this one?
No,
No?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.